Fix Washington. Now from the state capitol, here's Hannah Scott.
Representative Jenny Graham from the 6th District in Spokane. Thanks so much for joining the Fix Washington podcast. Pleasure to have you here. So we're a few weeks in here to the 2025 session. You are the new ranking member on the Community Safety Committee. I'm sure there's a lot going on there. What can you tell me about what we're seeing? The two open-ended?
That is a loaded question.
What are the most concerning items that we're seeing, do you think?
Wow, man, there are so many of them. I definitely would say one of the worst has to do with allowing judges to make a decision on whether they're going to dismiss charges or not, instead of going through the prosecutor, which is what I believe should happen. There should be a separation of powers there.
Right.
So that's a particularly bad one. You also have something going on where they want to change the sentencing grid guidelines just across the board, and that is very problematic because, you know, we've had a different committee in the past where I'd asked a judge that was testifying. So if we were to change this, you know, where a judge could allow somebody just drop the charges, or with the sentencing guidelines where they're going to want to change what the sentences are and allow them to be resentenced, does that mean that in the legislature, if we pass a bill that increases a sentence, that automatically increases their sentences of the people that are incarcerated, and you have to go back and change it? And the judge said, no, that would be unconstitutional to do that. And I'm arguing that I feel that it's the same way the other way.
Right.
I mean, we're not talking about people that are innocent.
No.
We're talking about people that had their day in court, judge, jury, and we have a sentencing guidelines, and now they're just deciding willy-nilly to go back and change it. I don't believe that that's right either, right?
And it's kind of an overarching theme, I think, in both the Civil Rights and Judiciary Committee and in the Community Safety Committee, where a lot of the bills from the majority party are about getting people out of prison or keeping them out in the first place, is it not?
Well, that's absolutely true. The other thing that is very troubling is there doesn't seem to be a lot of care about what they've done in the past or any of the plea bargains or anything that they might have accepted. None of that seems to matter. And one of the things that we've seen happening in my committee that's troubling is the victim shaming, the victim silencing, the victim censoring that I've been subject to, and I've seen other people being subject to the same. And I'll give you a really good example of that is testimony where I actually called a point of order during the committee where the individual was saying that if you are a crime victim, a loved one, or you're somebody that just wants to live in a safe and clean neighborhood that we should all be able to live in, that we want accountability and restitution. That is reasonable, in our justice system for crime victims and people that have been affected to want that. So the victim shaming comes in when they say, no, that's actually not true. You want retaliation and you're racist. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's not fair, and it's not true. The struggle that I see happening is there's one side that seems to feel that we only focus on rehabilitation, mm-hmm. right? And the crime victims are completely lost in that. The people that have been harmed, their families that have been harmed, and some irrevocably right. harmed. That they just don't seem to matter in this equation anymore. And if you're somebody that wants that accountability, you're the one with the problem, not the person that has had 26 felonies and now they've murdered somebody. Right. And we reasonably are asking the question, because you do have that balance between rehabilitation and accountability. There's no reason why we don't have both in our justice system. I believe that we should. You have accountability first while you work on that rehabilitation part. And during that process, they need to take accountability for what they've done. They need to participate in their own rehabilitation opportunities. They need, most importantly, to change their behavior if they get out and they get that second or 26th chance.
And that's
to
a broken
hold,
system, though.
right, to hold up their end of the bargain, right? Because while we hear so much about empathy and about compassion, that's fine. That's on one side of the coin. On the other side of the same coin is toxic empathy and deadly and dangerous compassion. And that is the part that seems to be being overlooked in our justice system right now. And it's troubling because our Washington State Constitution requires, it's not a suggestion, it's a you shall treat crime victims with the same dignity and respect and kindness that you do the accused. And what we see happening in the state is that's not being respected.
And you say is that true even at the committee level? Like even when we have victims and victim advocates trying to come in and testify?
Absolutely. Time and time again, what I end up seeing is a focus on the criminals, a focus on their supporters, or a focus on one specific side that feels one way or another, or there are professionals, so to speak, on one side that are allowed to talk as long as they want to talk. And that, and then I'm told later, well, we don't have time to ask questions or to have people testify, that's part of what our responsibilities are in that standing committee, is we're supposed to allow for questions. We're supposed to allow for people to, to talk about what their experiences are. And it's frustrating, when I see a crime victim talking about their brother being murdered, they get a time limit and then they're cut off, the actual victim in this situation. And another person that is on the other side of it advocating for the criminal is allowed to talk for as long as they want. Yeah. That is not fair. It's not balanced, and that is what I fight for in our justice system, is that we have a set of rules and laws that everybody should be expected to abide by, regardless of who you are. And if you fail to abide by those laws, regardless of who you are, then we should be treated equally under that. And if we don't fight for that, what we are already seeing is criminals, they're not worried. They're not worried about the police. They're not worried about the courts. They're not worried about the accountability part of it. And we are now pushing this to make it harder and harder and harder for the average person to be able to defend themselves in a situation where they may need to, because let's face it, we're dead last in the nation for police officers per capita. To pick up, you call somebody on 911 because you need help, you're not going to get an officer if they don't have one to send. They still have to find you. Okay, that can take a while to happen. So there's quite a bit of time where something really, really bad can happen, and unfortunately in this state, if that does, you, the crime victim, have no legal representation because the prosecutor represents the interest of the state, not the crime victim. We don't have resources to help that crime victim get up out of bed and put one foot in front of the other. There really is no help for them. House Bill 1799, what that does is it says if you commit a violent crime with a firearm, you are not being let out of jail early. There is no good time served, because if we're seeing bills that are being introduced that tell me, you, or anybody else that we have to be put in a position of possibly being a victim of one of these other individuals who are not following the law. They will not follow these laws, and they're not giving up their firearms. And to add salt into an open wound, if they hurt somebody, then again, they have all of the rights, they have all of the resources, and it's just backwards, upside down, and it's wrong. So there are many of us that are putting our foot down and saying, look, if you believe that this is really a problem, then you need to start holding the ones that are committing the crimes accountable. And if you're not willing to do that, then we're not buying that you really care about the issue or you're trying to stop it, because words are one thing, actions are another. So if you really want to stop something, you start to make it hurt the person that's actually doing it.
Well, and I know the House Republican caucus as a whole is trying to fix Washington, and but we are in the minority. So the best way to get some light on some of these issues and some of these bills and solutions that you're talking about, it's for the public to get involved, right? Come on down to Olympia, go on the website and sign in, have their voices be heard as much as possible, even if their testimony might be limited somehow.
Right. You can always submit written testimony. So, and you can also weigh in whether you support something or you don't. Obviously, it's always better if you're in person, but not everybody can be, which is why I really enjoy the remote part of it. And, you know, why does this make a difference? I sit in civil rights and judiciary. That's where we hear the landlord bills, firearms bills, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And it's not unusual in that committee to literally see thousands of people on the firearms bills, whether they're Republican, Democrat, Independent, all colors of skin, ages, you name it, right? They're just as different can be, saying, don't take my right to defend myself away. And at the same token, you don't see them in the Public Safety Committee, right?
Yeah.
Demanding, you know, that no, you need to start holding these people accountable if they make a decision, and it is making a decision to harm or kill somebody else. That needs to have consequences. Yeah. And what we're seeing happen in this state right now are steps being taken to erase records, to not include juvenile history of violence. Yeah. You know, they don't want to include
it's that 25, it's that brain right science, right? At 25 years old and younger, they can't understand when that works for them, right?
Right, whatever. Because I'm going to tell you, I grew up in Washington State, and we fully knew. Yeah. You know, I was 18 when I enlisted in the military.
Right, which you can still do.
Okay, we knew that if you were doing something wrong and you got caught, there was going to be a consequence for it. Maybe you didn't know what the consequence was fully going to be, but you knew that it wasn't right. I mean, there was an expectation. If you are going to be out in public, there is a way that you conduct yourselves, and there's a way that you do not conduct yourselves. And if you choose to do things you're not supposed to be doing, there's consequences for that. Every single year, there's more of these bad bills that come out that send exactly the wrong message. Yeah. That in this state, it seems anymore, you can do anything up to and including murder. And if you're an adult, you know, the other side is basically saying they feel 10, 15 years for murder is just fine. Yeah.
So the only way, though, again, and I think there are people in our communities that are concerned about this, is for folks to get involved in the legislative process and make their voices heard. 100%.
Right. Well, and I think, too, that it's a matter of being informed.
Right.
It's a matter of understanding, you know, what is going on in your neighborhood, right? The things that you're seeing, the property crime, retail theft, you know, any number of other crimes. If you are seeing those, and it just feels like the things that you're seeing are falling on deaf ears. I was just listening to a news story about a gentleman living in a neighborhood over by Aurora.
Yeah, right.
Where they were talking about constantly having shots fired and prostitution and stuff like that going on.
Years, yeah.
Right, exactly. And given my background, where my sister was murdered by the Green River serial killer, prostitution in Aurora was a problem then. But it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
It has not gotten better at this point. And again, I'm going to assert that I don't believe that it's the people. It's not the kids. We're seeing more and more younger kids committing these crimes. Why? Because they see that they can do it and get away with it.
Right, because we all grew up with consequences, like you're saying. I know
Right.
I did.
We
and it's just not
learned
what's happening.
early because there were painful consequences not to do certain things, right? And if you did, you were not, there was not going to be necessarily a way to bail you out of it. You were going to have to deal with what those consequences were. So you were a whole lot more careful about the decisions that you made.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on how things progress in this session. Thanks so much, Representative Jenny Graham from Spokane
you.
6th District. Thanks for joining us on the Fix Washington podcast.
Fix Washington. Now from the state capitol, here's Hannah Scott.
Welcome back to the Fix Washington podcast. We are sitting here with freshman Republican House member Deb Manjarrez from the 14th District. Welcome to the Fix Washington podcast.
Nice to be here.
Thank you so much for making time for us. So, as I said, a freshman member. Have been a few weeks now that we've been in session in 2025. What's been the experience for you so far?
Well, it's very new for me in the very beginning, but no, I'm finally feeling my stride here in the fourth week, understanding how the law, how to drop a bill and do all those sort of things, and the committee assignments. So, no, I'm enjoying it.
What were your priorities coming in for yourself, for your district?
Well, for my districts, the people in Washington State, we can't have any more taxes. We can't take any more money from the people in the state and my district. I mean, my district specifically. So, you know, I'm vehemently opposed to any of the tax increases that the majority party has proposed. The increase in property taxes. I mean, we can't. You know, there's housing costs, food costs. No, we can't take any more. And you know, a recent poll says more than 70% of the people in this state believe that it's a spending problem, not a revenue problem. So those are my priorities for my district, to do what I can for the people that live there.
All right, and you sit on the housing committee, yes?
I do.
All right, what are you seeing there? Housing, it's been a crisis as long as I've lived in the state, which is quite some time.
Well, and I believe, I was just talking with a colleague today, the crisis really started from the legislature in this building with the Growth Management Act.
Right.
That was a steal of our private property rights. And you can take it right back to exactly there. So we created the shortage in housing because we said, don't build there and don't build there and that sort of thing. So now they're trying to put Band-Aids on it, which is going to just hurt economic development. They've got they got a rent control bill that they're trying to jam through.
Yeah.
I mean, trying
And
to
most
jam
people
through.
hear that, right? And they think rent control is great, right? The renter who can't afford the rent. But in the long run, it is not great.
No. We should, in this building, we should be finding ways for people to own their own home. That's the American dream, and that's what they should do. And had the legislature not got involved with the Gross Management Act or the other things that we have been doing, it would be much easier. So, no, that still needs to be our goal, how to let people have their own homes, not rent.
Yes, exactly. Are you seeing anything moving in that direction in the Housing Committee?
No. Actually, that's not true. That's not true. No, there are some bills that have dropped, adding ADUs, which is additional dwelling units, in which is very good. Another bill that's going to allow tiny homes in your backyard. I mean, come on, we need mom and grandma. We need seriously
I have a 20-year-old, so
the
I'll
child-
rent to my kids.
the child that just got out of college.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to help them. You have to help them because the legislature has not helped them.
Right.
So those are out there. I hope those things do happen. We've been hamstringed out in the country. I live in the country, right in the middle of Yakima County, on what we could do, how often we could subdivide our land to let our child live next door. There's a couple bills out there going to allow that. Okay. So those are important things because people would build housing and we would have some pressure off of that.
Well, and because that's the ultimate problem too, right? So even if you fix the Growth Management Act and undo the damage of the last many years, you're not going to have instant housing. It's going to take a minute.
That is right.
So we have to do these little things to try to get people some housing.
So the bill I have, the one bill that I've dropped is House Bill 1340. It is to remove sales tax on prepared food. It's a big tax. I mean, that is a big tax. We have not given our people in Washington State any relief in how long? When? We don't give them any relief. They see no relief. They see their price of gas going up, their property taxes going up. That's all they see. Yeah. So this is going to be a tough bill to pass because it does have an economic effect on the operating fund. But the bill gets heard on Friday. And we have got, I mean, what? It's throwing them a bone. We have to give the people some relief.
And what is prepared food, really quickly?
It's real, I mean, it's going to the fast food restaurants.
Okay.
It is.
That's what I thought. Okay.
And as a proportion, you know the mom and dad, they're coming home from soccer, and you know that famous fast food restaurant that those kids always want to stop at?
Yes.
You know what I mean? You have to give them some relief. Yeah. The price has gone up already, and we don't have sales tax on food in the grocery stores. There's some prepared food in the grocery stores too. You see the fast food to take home, but this extends it to dining in fast food restaurants too. So I'm hoping that they'll feel, you know, that we can give something back to the people.
Because I think both sides of everyone, it's a bipartisan thing that everybody knows that people need some relief, and affordability is a crisis right now. Last question before you go, regardless as if you serve just this 2-year term or another 20 years here, what do you hope your legislative legacy will be?
Oh my gosh, my legacy after 4 weeks is that I really represented the people, okay? That I really represented the people. That's what we're here to do. Let's listen to those people in those districts, and we do what they want here. And the perfect example of the legislature not doing that is the Parents' Rights Bill that this legislation passed last time. They're trying to dismantle it. And we need to scream it from the mountaintops what that does, because I don't believe there's a parent, Republican, Democrat, Independent, that would agree with what they're trying to do if they really understood what they're trying to do. Yeah. That's not listening to the people. So that's the legacy. I want to say she represented us well.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining us.
You
Representative Deb Manjarrez from the 14th District. A pleasure, truly.
Glad to be here.
Fix Washington with Hannah Scott, a podcast from Washington House Republicans. Go to our website, houserepublicans.wa.gov. Find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube.